Zainab Okafor discovered 3 impossible truths on a humid Lagos morning that would shatter her carefully constructed life into 1,000 irreparable pieces. First, the pregnancy test in her trembling hands showed 2 unmistakable pink lines. Second, the father wasn't some forgettable encounter she could dismiss as a mistake. He was Minute Jae-sung, Seoul's most feared underground kingpin who'd somehow tracked her across continents. And third, he was standing in her cramped Yaba apartment without permission, his presence filling every oxygen molecule in the room as he spoke words that turned her blood to ice. "That child belongs to me. Which means you do too." Zainab stood frozen beside her small kitchen table, still clutching the test she'd taken 15 minutes ago. Her heart hammered against her ribcage so violently she thought it might crack bone. She stared at the man who should have remained a beautiful, reckless memory buried in Seoul's neon-lit streets. 2 months. It had been 2 months since that charity gala at the Schiller Hotel. 2 months since she'd collided with a mysterious stranger whose eyes held secrets darker than midnight. 2 months since she'd abandoned every principle she'd built her life upon and spent one intoxicating night tangled in silk sheets, learning what desire truly meant. But Jae-sung didn't look forgettable now. Not with those obsidian eyes that tracked her every micro-movement like a predator assessing prey. Not with the intricate ink crawling up his neck, Korean characters intertwined with phoenix wings that disappeared beneath his designer collar. Not with the way he commanded her modest space like he owned it, owned her, owned everything his gaze touched. "How did you even find me?" Her voice emerged fractured, barely recognizable as her own. He tilted his head toward her doorway with casual menace. "Your landlord was surprisingly cooperative once properly motivated. You bribed him." "I told you." He moved closer, each step deliberate, measured. The scent of his cologne invaded her senses, expensive bergamot mixed with something darker, more dangerous. "What belongs to me, I always find. And you, Zainab, you've belonged to me since Seoul." Her spine pressed against the counter, nowhere left to retreat. "I don't belong to anyone," she whispered, hating how her body betrayed her mind. How her skin remembered his touch with photographic clarity. How warmth pooled low in her belly despite the terror. How her fingers ached to reach for him even as every rational thought screamed danger. Jae-sung leaned in, his palms settling on the counter beside her hips, caging her completely. His voice dropped to a lethal whisper that sent electricity down her vertebrae. 2 months ago, you were right. You belonged to yourself. But now, his gaze dropped to her still flat stomach, something primal and possessive blazing in those dark depths. "Now you're carrying my air, and I protect what's mine. Even if you despise me for it." Zainab's hands clenched into fists, her late grandmother's voice echoing through her consciousness. "Never let a man believe he has dominion over your soul, child. You can't just." "Pack your belongings," he interrupted, straightening to his full height. "All business now, cold and commanding as winter. You're relocating to my penthouse. This isn't negotiable. I'm not going anywhere with you." He extracted something from his jacket, a manila folder, and dropped it on her counter beside the jollof rice she'd cooked the previous evening. Photographs spilled out like accusations. Images of her walking to her NGO office in Victoria Island, getting suya from her favorite spot in Seoul, laughing with colleagues outside a restaurant in Ikoyi. And in every single photograph, there was a red circle around someone lurking in the background. Different faces, different locations, same malevolent presence. Her stomach plummeted. Cold sweat erupted across her palms, down her spine. "You've inherited enemies now," Jae-sung said quietly, dangerously. "My enemies. They know about the pregnancy. They know about you. And they will weaponize you to destroy me." Her chest constricted, ribs squeezing around lungs that suddenly forgot how to process oxygen. Why would they care? Because in my world, an heir means power. And power means people kill without hesitation to obtain it. His jaw tightened, a muscle pulsing beneath the ink on his neck. "You have 2 choices, Zainab. Come with me and survive, or remain here and pray they show mercy before they pull the trigger." She pressed her hand protectively over her stomach, instinctive and fierce. The apartment suddenly felt exposed, vulnerable. The windows too accessible. Every shadow a potential threat. "Why do you even care?" she asked, voice breaking like glass. "You don't know me. One night doesn't mean. It means everything." The intensity in his eyes stole whatever breath she had left. "That child inside you is mine. You are mine. And I don't care if you hate me, fear me, or curse my existence every day for the rest of your life." He stepped closer, and she could feel the heat radiating from his body. Could see the slight tremor in his fingers, the only crack in his otherwise impenetrable control. "I don't care if you hate me. That's my baby inside you, and you're mine now. Pack." She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him exactly where he could go. But her hands were shaking uncontrollably and her mind kept replaying those photographs. Strangers watching her, circling her like hyenas around wounded prey. What Zainab didn't know yet was that the man standing in her kitchen wasn't offering protection. He was offering a prison. And the bars were constructed from something far more dangerous than steel. Want to know if Zainab survives this deadly world or if Jae-sung's obsession destroys them both? Keep reading because the real storm is just beginning. "I have a job," she said weakly, grasping at the fragments of her normal life. "A work visa. I can't just." He pulled out his phone, typed something with efficient precision. "Your employer has been compensated generously. Your visa extended indefinitely under my sponsorship. Your mother in Enugu will receive a deposit tomorrow morning, enough to cover your brother Chisholm's university fees at UI." Zainab's chest tightened, anger flaring hot and sharp. "You investigated my family." "I investigated everything." His gaze softened, barely perceptible, but enough to make her breath catch. "I know you send money home monthly. I know your mother works double shifts at the teaching hospital. I know Chisholm wants to study engineering but can't afford it." He paused, something almost human flickering across his features. "Let me provide for you. All of you." It should have felt like manipulation, like a gilded cage being assembled around her freedom. But God help her, it felt like relief washing over exhausted shoulders. "This is absolutely insane," she whispered. "Yes." He didn't deny it. "But you're out of time to debate the insanity." As if orchestrated, his phone buzzed. He glanced at the screen and his expression transformed, became lethal, arctic. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. "They're moving faster than anticipated." He grabbed her wrist, gentle but absolutely firm. "We're leaving immediately." "Wait, I need." "Now, Zainab." The urgency in his voice cut through her hesitation like a blade. She grabbed her purse, her passport, the small wooden carving of Sango her father had made before cancer took him. Jae-sung's hand stayed pressed against the small of her back as he guided her toward the door, and she hated how safe that single touch made her feel. In the hallway, two men in immaculate dark suits waited, faces impassive, hands folded. Jae-sung spoke to them in rapid Korean, his tone clipped and authoritative. They bowed slightly and flanked them as they descended. "Who are they?" she asked as they took the stairs, her sandals echoing against concrete. "My men." "And who are you, really?" He didn't answer until they reached the underground parking garage. A black Mercedes waited, engine purring like a satisfied predator. He opened the door for her, and when she hesitated, his fingers brushed her cheek so gently it made her heart stutter violently. "I'm the man who will burn Lagos, Seoul, and every city between them before I let anyone touch you," he said quietly, his thumb tracing her jawline. "Remember that." She slid into the car, leather cool against her overheated skin. And as Jae-sung closed the door behind her, Zainab caught a reflection in the tinted window. She looked terrified. She looked trapped. But worst of all, she looked like she was already his. The penthouse in Ikoyi wasn't what Zainab expected. She'd imagined sterile luxury, cold marble that whispered money but shouted emptiness. Instead, warm light spilled across dark hardwood. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Lagos's glittering skyline, the third mainland bridge stretching like a jeweled necklace across the water. Nigerian art hung beside Korean pieces, Yusuf Grillo next to contemporary Seoul masters. And in the corner, something that made her breath catch, a bookshelf filled with her favorite authors. Adichie, Atta, Bulawayo, Gayasi. He'd been planning this. Your room is down that corridor, Jae-sung said, shrugging off his jacket. The movement revealed more ink, dragons coiling down his forearms in intricate detail. Mine is directly across. Separate spaces. Separate rooms. The question escaped before she could stop it. His eyes darkened, something hungry flickering in their depths. Did you want to share mine? Heat flooded her face. No, I just assumed you'd force you into my bed. He stepped closer and she caught the dangerous edge in his voice. I'm many things, Zainab, but I'm not that. When you come to me, it'll be because you want to. Not because you have to. She wrapped her arms around herself, suddenly aware of how thin her dress was, how his gaze tracked the movement, how the air between them felt electrically charged the same way it had 2 months ago when his hands had mapped every inch of her skin with devastating precision. 3 weeks had transformed everything. Zainab stood in the penthouse kitchen, hands deep in dough for Puff Puff, while Mrs. Park, Jae-sung's housekeeper, watched with fascination. The older Korean woman had been teaching her Korean dishes, kimchi jjigae, japchae, tteokbokki. Zainab had been reciprocating with Nigerian cuisine. 3 weeks since her life had imploded. 3 weeks of Korean lessons with Minute Seo. 3 weeks of slowly, terrifyingly starting to feel like this gilded cage was home. 3 weeks of Jae-sung looking at her like she was the only thing in the world worth protecting. He'd been different lately, softer around the edges. He'd started joining her for breakfast, teaching her Korean phrases while she taught him Yoruba. He'd had her books shipped from Nigeria. He'd even laughed last week when she'd accidentally cursed at him in Yoruba after he'd stolen the last piece of chin-chin. And the touches. God, the touches. Casual brushes in the hallway. His hand at the small of her back. Fingers lingering when he passed her morning tea. Nothing overt, nothing demanding. Just constant, present. A steady reminder that he was there, watching, wanting, waiting. The wedding was in 2 weeks. They'd postponed it, Jae-sung's decision. You should want to marry me, he'd said one night, vulnerability cracking through his armor. Not just agree because you're terrified. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jae-sung, dinner tonight. Just us. I'm cooking. She laughed out loud. You can't cook. I've been practicing. Meet me on the roof at 7. Her heart did something stupid and fluttery. What Zainab didn't know was that tonight would be the last peaceful moment she'd have. Because the person she'd come to trust was about to betray her. And before the night ended, she'd watched Jae-sung kill for her. The rooftop stole her breath. Fairy lights were strung across the space, casting everything in warm golden light. A table was set for 2, and Jae-sung stood by a portable grill, looking devastating in dark jeans and a black shirt that revealed every line of ink on his arms. You actually came, he said, relief evident in his voice. You're actually cooking. She moved closer, inhaling the aroma. Should I be concerned? Probably. He flipped something on the grill. Bulgogi. But I had assistance. Mrs. Park prepared everything. I'm just not destroying it. The food was exceptional. Better than exceptional. You've been holding out on me, she said, surprised. This is delicious. Pride flickered across his features, transforming his face. I wanted to give you something normal. No guards hovering, no threats. Just this. Her chest tightened with emotion. This is nice. Is it enough? He set down his chopsticks, his gaze intense. To make you want to stay. Not because you have to, but because you want to. I don't know yet, she said honestly. But I'm getting there. Hope crossed his features, vulnerable and raw. That's all I can ask. They danced under the fairy lights, Lagos sprawling beneath them, the world reduced to just this, his heartbeat against hers, the baby between them that had brought them together, the impossible love growing despite every reason it shouldn't. Zainab, he murmured against her temple. If something happens, if things go catastrophically wrong, I need you to promise me you'll run. Her stomach dropped. What things? What's wrong? Nothing. Just, he pulled back to look at her, fear naked in his eyes. Promise me you'll run if I tell you to. Jae-sung. His phone buzzed. Once, twice, insistent. He cursed, checking the screen. His expression went from tender to lethal in seconds. What? Zainab asked, dread pooling in her stomach. Security breach. He was already moving, pulling her toward the door. We need to get you downstairs immediately. They'd barely reached the elevator when the lights died. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in eerie red that transformed the familiar into something nightmarish. Stay behind me. He pulled out his gun, positioned himself as her shield. Someone cut the main power. The elevator opened. Jae-sung's men were there, weapons drawn, faces grim. He barked orders in Korean. Whatever they said made his face go white, absolutely bloodless. What? Zainab demanded, terror climbing her throat. Time in it, he said quietly, dangerously. He's gone. Took the security codes with him. The name hit her like a physical blow. Time in it, the kind guard who'd smiled at her, who'd helped her practice Korean. He's working for the Jade Serpents. Has been for months. An explosion rocked the building. The force threw Zainab against Jae-sung's chest. His arms wrapped around her, protecting her as the world shook and concrete dust rained down. When the dust settled, alarms were screaming bloody murder. Basement, Jae-sung ordered his men. Get her to the escape tunnel now. No. Zainab grabbed his shirt with desperate fingers. I'm not leaving you. You promised. I didn't promise anything. Gunfire erupted below them, sharp and immediate. Jae-sung kissed her hard, desperate, tasting like goodbye. Run, he whispered against her lips, his hands framing her face. Please. Then he was pushing her toward the stairwell, toward his men, toward survival. Will Zainab escape the deadly attack? Can Jae-sung protect what's his? Keep reading because the next few minutes will change everything forever. Zainab ran down the stairs, her sandals slapping against concrete, her breath coming in panicked gasps. Two guards flanked her, moving fast, weapons raised. Behind her, more gunfire. Shouting. The sounds of violence and death. They hit the basement level. The door burst open. The guards moved through first, checking corners with military precision. Clear, one said. Zainab stepped into the corridor and stopped breathing. Time in it stood 20 feet away, gun raised, pointed directly at her stomach. At the baby. Her hands moved instinctively, covering her belly, protecting what she could. I'm sorry, Time in it said, and he almost sounded like he meant it. His face was bruised, bleeding, desperate. But the Jade Serpents pay better than loyalty. The guards raised their weapons, but Time in it shook his head. You shoot, I shoot. We all know whose bullet is faster. His eyes never left Zainab. Tell them to lower their guns. Don't, Zainab whispered, her whole body shaking. Don't listen to him. Lower them, Time in it said again, his voice hardening. Or I put a bullet in that baby right now. The guards hesitated, muscles tense. Please, Zainab's voice broke. There's a baby. I'm pregnant. You don't have to. I know. His finger moved to the trigger. That's exactly why the serpents want you dead. No baby, no heir, no leverage, no reason for Minute Jae-sung to refuse their demands anymore. Time slowed. Zainab saw his finger tighten. Saw the barrel of the gun. Saw her death, her baby's death, in his desperate eyes. A gunshot exploded through the corridor. But the pain didn't come. Time in its eyes widened. Blood bloomed across his chest, a perfect circle right over his heart. He crumpled, gun clattering to concrete. Zainab couldn't breathe. Couldn't move. Couldn't. Jae-sung stepped over Time in its body, gun still raised, face spattered with blood. His expression was murder incarnate. Cold, lethal, absolutely merciless. He'd killed him without hesitation. Without mercy. For her. Touch her, Jae-sung said softly to the corpse, and this is what happens. Then his eyes found Zainab, and something cracked in that cold mask. Fear, relief, raw, desperate emotion. Are you hurt? His hands were on her face, her arms, checking frantically for injuries. Did he touch you? Did he? You killed him. Her voice sounded distant, strange, not her own. Yes. No apology. No regret. And I'd do it again. I'd kill anyone who threatens you. I don't care if you hate me, that's my baby inside you. She should have been horrified. Should have recoiled from the blood on his hands, the violence in his eyes. Instead, her legs gave out. He caught her, pulling her against his chest, his heart thundering beneath her ear like war drums. I've got you, he whispered into her hair, his voice breaking. I've got you. You're safe. You're safe. He was going to kill our baby. The words came out shattered. I know. His arms tightened around her like he could hold her together through sheer will. But he's dead now. He can't hurt you. No one can hurt you. She looked up at him, at the man who'd just killed for her, who'd stepped over a corpse like it was nothing, who held her like she was the most precious thing in the universe. This is your world, she whispered, understanding finally sinking in. This is what you meant. Blood and death, Anne. Yes. His thumb wiped tears from her cheek. This is my world. And I will drown it in blood before I let it take you from me. I don't care if you hate me, Zainab. That's my baby inside you, and you're mine. And God help her, she believed him. Worse, she was starting to need him too. 3 days later, Zainab stood in front of a mirror in the penthouse, adjusting the traditional Nigerian iro and buba Jae-sung had commissioned. Deep purple silk with gold embroidery, the colors of royalty. Mrs. Park had helped her tie the jewel, the elaborate head wrap sitting perfectly. You don't have to do this, Jae-sung said from the doorway. He was dressed in a black agbada with Korean-inspired embroidery, a perfect blend of both their worlds. Yes, I do. She turned to face him, and the look in his eyes made her breath catch. I want to. Something fierce and tender crossed his features. He crossed the room, hands settling on her waist with infinite gentleness. You're magnificent, he murmured, his forehead pressing against hers. Terrifying and magnificent and mine. Yours, she agreed, the word feeling like freedom instead of captivity. And you're mine. Always. The wedding was small. Just Mrs. Park, Jae-sung's most trusted men, and a video call with her mother and brother in Enugu. Her mother cried when she saw them together, saw the way Jae-sung looked at her daughter, like she hung the moon and stars. When he slid the ring onto her finger, platinum inlaid with sapphires the color of Lagos nights, Zainab realized something profound. She'd been wrong about prisons. Sometimes the walls weren't meant to trap you. Sometimes they were built to protect you. To keep you safe. To give you space to heal and grow and become who you were always meant to be. I love you, she whispered as he kissed her, making it official. I love you more, he whispered back, his hand protective over her stomach. Both of you. 6 months later, Zainab stood in the nursery, cradling their daughter, Amora Ji-woo. They'd named her Grace in Igbo and Wisdom in Korean. It felt perfect. Jae-sung appeared in the doorway, still dressed in his suit from meetings, but when he saw them, his entire expression melted into something soft and wonderful. How is she? He asked quietly, crossing to wrap his arms around both of them. Perfect. Zainab looked down at their sleeping baby, her father's dark hair, her mother's brown skin, a beautiful blend of both their worlds. Absolutely perfect. Jae-sung kissed the top of her head, his hand gentle on their daughter's back. I never thought I could have this, he murmured against her hair. Peace. Love. A family. Neither did I. Zainab leaned back against his chest, feeling safe, cherished, home. But here we are. Here we are, he echoed. My wife. My daughter. My entire world. Outside, Lagos glittered with possibility. The city that had once felt foreign and terrifying now felt like home. The penthouse that had felt like a prison now felt like sanctuary. The future they'd once doubted now stretched before them, full of promise. They'd survived the darkness. They'd fought through blood and fear and impossible odds. And on the other side, they'd found each other. Found love. Found home. And that was worth everything. If Zainab and Jae-sung's journey from enemies to soulmates had you holding your breath, drop a comment telling me your favorite moment. Was it the rooftop dinner? The basement showdown? That final I love you? Subscribe because their story might be over, but I have so many more dangerous romances waiting for you. Hit that notification bell so you never miss the next thrilling tale.